You know when a great idea has its time? Because everybody has the same idea at the same time. There was a meeting at the waterfront, get off this train and walk to the train station, that if you're a kid from Town Hill, if you're a kid from Swansea, you can still do something amazing and you can change the world.
Swansea. And why we're here, rather than outside his house, is that it wasn't far from here that Pete's band, the Iveys, because this is, or originally was, Ivy Place. They used to rehearse, and Ivy Place was a thriving hub of local musicians and bands. Pete went on to become a major influence on the Swansea and British music scene during the 60s and 70s, and as Mal said earlier, will never be forgotten. He wrote many international hits, some that we've heard earlier, and thank you again to all the buskers, that was great. I don't know what people coming off the train think they get this every Saturday in Swansea.
Why not?
Get off! He wrote many international hits, some of which, as I said, we've heard, and of course Without You, which is going to close this session here outside the station, which of course has become an international ballad standard. Pete was part of a rich Swansea rock and roll tradition. A tradition that's gone on from then to now. In Swansea we had the likes of Terry Williams, Deke Leonard, Brian Breeze, Freddie the Frog Lewis, Spencer Davis. I would have included Mal Pope for the 60s and 70s, but he would have been far too young. And many, many others. And it continues to thrive today. I did some research for this, and I found on the internet at least 50 bands in Swansea who say they are still performing. And some of those were performing in the 1960s and the 1970s. Pete Ham is sadly no longer with us, but his music and legacy live on today, and it's inspiring musicians and fans across the world. And it's particularly fitting, and no accident, that we're celebrating the life and career of Pete on what would have been his 66th birthday. So I think one of the things that if you are going to be singing later, what you actually should be singing is Happy Birthday as well. So we hope that today's celebration and this lasting tribute will introduce his music to new audiences, particularly to those in his home city. I would like to thank all of the musicians and all of the people from both sides of the Atlantic who've helped organise this weekend's event. Thank you very much. This is the first of many to come.
We've had a number of quotes from people around the world just remembering Peter. This is from Olivia Harrison, George Harrison's widow. She wrote to us and said, over the years George spoke with fondness about Peter as a friend and a great respect for his beautiful songs. I had the pleasure of meeting Peter's family, and although I didn't know Peter himself, his lyrics and recordings embody a gentle spirit and a tender heart. Congratulations and love on this occasion from Olivia Harrison. So at that meeting, people wanted to put a blue plaque scheme around Swansea, but it was already in hand. The man who was responsible for helping put that together is Councillor Nick Bradley, the Cabinet Member for Regeneration. Nick.
As Chair of the Committee tasked with honouring Swansea's celebrated figures, I'm absolutely delighted today to be at the launch of the city's blue plaque scheme. Swansea, as has already been indicated, has a huge amount to celebrate. The task of honouring all of our deserving sons and daughters may prove impossible. When the group first met, there was one individual that came forward at the Waterfront Museum to speak with passion and paid a real tribute to Pete Ham, and that was Mal Pope. It was Mal that inspired us. It was Mal that said, we need to put the Pete on a blue plaque, and we need to do it quickly, and he needs to be the first person that we recognise. What struck us when Mal was speaking was that despite Pete Ham's undoubted talent and impact, he hadn't been recognised in the way we would have liked across Swansea. We felt that honouring one of our unsung heroes was a fitting way, an important way and a crucial way to launch this blue plaque scheme. Excitingly, Pete Ham was born very close to here in Town Hill, and I'm a local councillor for Town Hill, so it's a particular proud moment for me to be here today. We all know he went on to form two very influential bands during the 1960s and 70s, the Iveys and Badfinger. A string of hits followed. He co-wrote with George Harrison and Ringo Starr, both vinyl and performing on stage. It was the best song that he became famous for in 1973 that won the Ivor Novello Award that has already been indicated, which was also voted the greatest love song of all time in several national polls. Of course, I'm delighted to be here, and I note that if anyone goes onto YouTube to see the work that Pete Ham has delivered, that he is one of the highest rated artists. Number of hits reached on all of his songs across YouTube. The average 1.6 million hits a year for the songs when you go and have a look on YouTube, and that I think is worth a round of applause. Proof, if any, that Pete didn't just have an impact in Swansea, Wales and the UK, but has a global reach. I'm absolutely delighted today to say the first blue plaque is going to be unveiled for Pete Ham. Thank you.
A couple of things. I've seen so many faces here today that I recognise. Don't worry, none of us are drowning. It's not your whole life passing in front of you. And if you can see through some of the older faces, the same people underneath. It's lovely to see so many people here who have played a big part in the music of this town, this city, over the last 30, 40 years. Other people who have commented on Peter, we had a quote from Chris Thomas. Chris Thomas is a legendary music producer, worked with the Beatles, Pink Floyd. He says, "Thanks for inviting me to write a few words about Peter. I worked with Pete between April 1973 and July 1974. That's not very long space of time, during which short time we completed 3 albums. So they didn't hang about, did they? He was not only an extremely talented writer, but a great singer with a beautiful voice. And if that wasn't enough, he was also an accomplished and occasionally fiery guitarist who provided piano parts on many of Badfinger's recordings. He had it all to achieve a long and distinguished career in music. Pete," and this is what Chris says, "Pete, wherever you are now, I send you my love and my respect." That's Chris Thomas, the producer. Well, we might have been fighting a rearguard action for Pete Ham in this town, but there was one man who's been championing in for many years across the world. He's not a local boy, you'll know that from his accent. Will you please give a very warm welcome to Dan Matavina. Yeah.
Pete Ham gave us beautiful, beautiful songs. He gave songs of peace, love, kindness, and understanding. He reached out in full testament of the best of the human spirit. We related to his songs. We could engage in his music. He made us feel warm, protected, happy, excited, joyful. He wasn't afraid to put forward a great melody with the fullest of sincerity and totally embrace it. He was deep. He was real. We feel like we knew this man. He became our friend, our brother, our guide, our confidant, besides someone to admire and look up to. Swansea, you have to be so proud of this man and his accomplishments. Your native son, who had his character, his ideals fostered through growing up in this wonderful town of Swansea. I know of this region's tradition of hard work and effort, of camaraderie, of aiding and assisting your fellow man, of gaining more out of helping and assisting and rather than your own success, of working hard and wanting to do an even better job the next time. Pete personified those ideals, the South Wales tradition. Pete was a superb musician and artist, but an even better human being. All of his friends and family, all the fans and most musicians knew how greatly talented he was, and we were all in awe. But even more so, what Pete Ham was a thoroughly decent fellow. I see a lot of his friends and family here, good people. And I know a lot of you have memories of how he and his music has touched your heart. Pete's lovely daughter, Petra, is here today. And though she has never met her father, he has always been a guiding light and presence to her. She learned about her from her mother, Anne Harriet, the lovely Anne Harriet, who is Anne has always honored and respected Pete's memory with great dignity. Also here is Petra's brother Blair, who Pete treated as if he was his own child. Friends of Pete have told Petra tales of him over the years, and of course his music informed her of his life story. Those words, the phrases, the melodies, the tasteful guitar licks that spoke as mini songs unto themselves, the rich, warm vocal that envelops you, that stirs your heart, never lets you down by going out of pitch or doing anything that might distract you. We marvel at his gift of harmonies. And he was an amazing guitar player. Mike Gibbons of Swansea, his bandmate. Mike told me every single take of Peter Ham was good. You could have used it all because he was almost flawless. He was gifted, but it came not just from talent, but because of the very hard work he did. He had a perseverance, a belief in himself that great effort could bring fulfillment and success. When Paul McCartney came to the Iveys and offered his song Come and Get It, Pete very respectfully stated, well, we were hoping to record one of our own songs for the next single. Bill Collins, the Iveys manager, pulled Pete aside and told Pete, you don't ever turn down Paul McCartney. Even earlier than that, Pete Townsend of The Who had offered the Iveys Mary Ann with the Shaky Hand to record as a single. Pete had also said then, we want to release one of our own songs. He had that belief in himself. Pete had been writing and making incredible demos starting around the age of 19 and 20, and he was farther along in writing, recording techniques, singing ability, and song conception than just about any other 60s British rock artist of a similar age. Ray Davies of the Kinks noticed this talent, and over a year's time, Ray Davies tried very hard to get to produce an album for the Iveys, even while the Kinks were very popular and wildly busy. But Bill Collins held off the many interested parties. Perhaps he was nervous he would get them the wrong deal, but then the Beatles' Apple Records came along, and the rest is history. What many people who knew Pete have made clear was that he had a very gentle nature and was very soft-spoken. Yet, also, he could be a great joker and prankster who loved to make you laugh. He loved to make people smile. Pete was also emphasized as being very humble and treating people with respect. Fans have told me of Pete, meeting Pete, being very excited and happy to meet Pete, yet he would tell them back, no, it's my honor to meet you. You're the people out there working hard. I just sing the songs. It's my honor to meet you. That was Pete Ham. Another incident, one time friends of his were kind of casually making jokes about a busker who was struggling at a restaurant. And they were, as people do, making remarks. He stopped them in their tracks and said, no, you need to give this man respect. He's doing the best he can do. That's Pete Ham. Pete was certainly a very well-liked guy, but there were a few in this rough and ready music business who hurt him terribly. It's a very hard business with too many shysters, huge egos, and people more than willing to use others for personal gain. When we have these artists like Pete who are so naturally effusive, so beautiful, so magical with their gift, so intuitive of expression, so pure in their heart, they sadly become a target. And because Pete was so wanting to see the best in people, why wouldn't he expect them to treat him as he would treat them? He had that trust, you know. He wanted to just be himself and give and expect that in return. Sadly, especially in the music business, you can't have that attitude to survive. Swansea, through memorializing Pete Ham today through this blue plaque honor, you now have become one of the protectors of his legacy. He was one of you, through and through Welshman, and a very proud citizen of this town. He came up in Swansea in an amazing time of intense musical growth and high energy in the early 60s, and there were many other talented people here deserving of a shot at future acclaim and fame. Others here did have the heart and soul of a Pete Ham. He had some success, so he became your example of your rich heritage of the creative arts, music, vocalizing, poetry, all done with inspired human dignity. Pete was always in bands, and so he believed in the team concept of everyone working together to make an artistic statement. He assisted everyone in the Iveys and Badfinger along the way and felt as much satisfaction in the others creating their works and coming up with parts for their songs. He excitedly embraced any notoriety that they garnered for their compositions. He never bragged about the many recording sessions he had with the Beatles or working on their productions. In fact, Pete turned down an offer to go to a John Lennon Imagine session because he committed himself to visiting with his young niece that day. That was more important in that moment, his family, his promise to his niece. Pete truly loved his family, his mother Catherine, his father William, his brother John, and his sister Irene. All of his cousins, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, he loved them all and even wrote songs about his experiences at home. Pete even loved animals, all creatures. He even wrote a song about a slug, a chicken, and how they should get respect. He visited orphanages to lend these kids special moments, special happy moments in their lives. I feel very honored in having written a biography on Badfinger, and through that, getting to know so many people in Pete's life, getting to know the other members of the bands he was in, and even some of those that carried on his tradition beyond his passing, such as Al Wadkey, who played a number here, a very talented man from Minnesota, Joe Tanzen, a superb songwriter, a very genuine and sincere artist, and another fellow, Jeff Ross, another great songwriter. They carried on the tradition of Badfinger when they had their opportunities. Pete was very close with many of his bandmates. If he had known there was going to be a plaque today to honor his work, he surely would have been somewhat embarrassed and likely wanted to see his bandmates receive some due. So in honor of that, and what he represents as a person, his bandmates in the Iveys and Badfinger are going to be listed on the plaque below his name. Based on, they all deserve that. Other early bandmates of Pete, but not on the plaque, I want to acknowledge them, they're here, that grew up with him and played in bands, are Roy Anderson, John Horrell, and Terry Gleason. Another important figure in Pete's life was an early mentor at the youth club, Mr. Brian Coffey. One key member who was with Pete, of course, was Mike Gibbons of Swansea. who many of you knew and loved. A great drummer and a very underrated songwriter of the Iveys and Badfinger. He has a devoted widow, Ellie, and 3 remarkably talented sons, Owen, Adam, and David, that are back in Florida, and I know they wish they could be here today. Gaynor, his ex-wife, is also here, and she's very close with the family. Ron Griffiths of the Iveys is here. Give a hand for Ron. Ron is here with his family and his partner Peggy. Ron was a great bass player and singer. He and Pete were musically symbiotic, and they would have done great things if Pete had carried on, as they were very close. Ron's voice was really the key in getting the Iveys to London. David Jenkins of the Iveys is here. Let's give him a hand. David's lively stage presence and vocals also helped gain the Iveys the attention of manager Bill Collins, who wholeheartedly believed in these boys and did the initial push towards songwriting, which was their key to establishing themselves in the music business. Another bandmate of Pete's was the remarkable Liverpudlian Tom Evans. Tom was Pete's co-writer for Without You. His wonderful wife Marianne is here. Give her a hand. Tom was the pizzazz of Badfinger. His harmonies and the range were the icing on all those hit songs. And Tom and Pete likely would have had a remarkable songwriting team. There was one month in 1969, there was a transition from Ron Griffiths leaving and Joey Mullen entering the band. In that month, they co-wrote Without You, Carry On Till Tomorrow, Crimson Ship, and other great tunes showing enormous potential. But once the band member came in and the dynamic changed, their opportunities slipped away. But again, I think they would have had opportunities to work if things had gone well. As far as Without You, the true origin of that song, there's some rumors out there and stories. Pete took his early song, whose chorus wasn't quite finished to his satisfaction, and asked Tom if he could swap in Tom's chorus. And yes, this all-time classic was born, and it was true that Harry Nilsson and his producer, Richard Perry, it took their ears to interpret the true depth of the melody and potential that song had. And Tom and Pete were very appreciative, met Harry Nilsson when he got a silver disc, and that's been documented. Pete was also embracing of a new member in 1969, Joey Mullen, and Joey was going to be a new part of the team, so Pete immediately encouraged him to write songs. And Joey did prove to be an excellent songwriter who helped make a number of Badfinger's albums classic, whole, and complete. Pete would uplift and lace all of Joey's songs with incredible licks and stunning guitar solos. And Joey returned the favor with his guitar solos on No Matter What and Baby Blue. Later on, from that time, there was a new member of Badfinger, Bob Jackson. Let's give Bob a hand. Bob is headlining the concert this afternoon, and his wonderful family is out there, I know. And Bob joined up with Pete, and they immediately bonded, Pete asking him to visit his home, and a friendship seemingly was born. They, no doubt, Bob and Pete, would have joined in some musical nirvana down the road based on their early recordings together for Head First. Bob later wrote a tribute song to Pete, I Won't Forget You. And if this world is fair, it will be recognized by the masses someday as a masterpiece of composition. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank all the council people. You've been fantastic in your dedication to get this off the ground. Everyone at the mayor's office too, Nick Bradley, and the many people who helped put this together. Most notably, I want to give two names, Andrew Spencer Thomas and Andrew Keene. And thanks to the many fans and old fans who have traveled here for the weekend. Thank you to the people of Swansea, of South Wales, and to all the musicians of the world out there paying attention to this. The songwriters of the world who admire Pete. The sensitive artists who express from their heart, who have felt misunderstood at times, but compelled to continue to create because this is all they know. This is all that makes sense to them. For these artists, Pete is an inspiring figure, a genuine artist who did everything the right way, and his music will always be an inspiration to draw from. So, in final word, thank you, Swansea, for recognizing Pete on what would have been his 66th birthday by immortalizing him with this blue plaque today. And ladies and gentlemen, here for you we have some video clips and some highlights of Pete Ham, the Iveys, and Badfinger.
We're very nearly there now for the unveiling. We have one more speech. If Dan's been holding a candle for Peter and his music and the band across the water, one man locally from this part of the world has always been carrying a torch. Would you please give a very warm welcome for our final speech of today to Keith James.
Hi everyone, I'm just going to speak very briefly. I became a Badfinger fan in the early 80s after, I was a Beatles fan, and then I started collecting Apple and all that, and then I read an article in a magazine called Beatles Unlimited. It was issue 2 for those who were making notes, and it was just the story of Pete Ham and Badfinger, and it painted such a compelling pen portrait of Peter that I just wanted to know more about this band. And at that stage I had no idea that this guy was born just a short bus ride from where I was born. I mean, they said that it was a band that played some of the Welsh clubs, but that could have been an English band. And so it started my interest in the band, and I went to HMV, for those who remember, when it was in the other place in the Quadrant, and I tried to get hold of Badfinger albums. At that stage, there was just no Badfinger albums around. There was no vinyl around. It's different now. It took me 4 years to get my Badfinger collection together. A modern day fan, it would take 4 minutes on the internet. But it took me 4 years to track down all the Badfinger stuff. I went up and down the country on my own. I bought the single day after day. I hadn't heard it before. I put it on my turntable, and that's where it stayed for 3 months. That is the greatest song of all time. That is singing. That is singing. At that stage, I believed I was the only Badfinger fan in the entire world. I tried to collect their records and I eventually got them. And I just want to say hello to just Philippe, my friend from Belgium. Give us a wave. A round of applause for Philippe, because really without Philippe I probably would never have started a fan magazine for the band and started writing, because Philippe put an advert in the Beatles Monthly and said, are there any other Badfinger fans out there? So there were some other Badfinger fans out there, and eventually I found that there was almost one in every country, in every European country, there was one fan shining a light. So that was exciting, and I started doing a fanzine called the Badfinger File. Very rare copies, exchanging hands from upwards of 3 pence, if you've got one. Order now, avoid disappointment. So I did eventually about 40 editions of the... Thanks, Mum. I did about 40 editions... I did about 40 editions of the Badfinger fanzine, non-profit making, thank you very much. The taxman's watching. And just great, and just meeting these beautiful people up and down the country. I can honestly say, and I'm not the kind of person who would say this unless it was true, some of the most beautiful people I've met are the Badfinger people. Just the fans and the group, and I'm not even going to embarrass them by giving names like Ron Griffiths and Bob Jackson and Dan Matavina and the likes of all that. So up and down the country I managed to meet so many great Badfinger fans. We did a celebration for Pete, I think it was 1999 or 2000. I don't know, I can't remember. I don't keep a diary. What was it? No, that was the convention, Peggy. Yeah. And then we did a convention, yeah. Then we did a convention in 2006 in the Dragon, that was it. And that was fantastic, and we had a great time. And this is even, and I didn't think we could top that, but this has even topped that. So be proud of what Pete did. I just feel that if Pete would know that in 2013 so many beautiful people will be turning out, maybe events would have turned out differently for Pete Ham. God bless you. I'm just proud to be part of the history and proud to just shine a very small South Walian light on the Badfinger story. Thank you.
Peter, do you want to say anything? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Peter's daughter, Peter.
Hi everyone. A bit nervous, but you know, I'll be fine. It's just such an honour to be here today. Just so proud of my father, and it's especially an honour because it's in Swansea, and I know how much he loves Swansea as well. Although I didn't know my dad, I still feel very close to him through all of his music and everything that my mum tells me about him. And obviously she says that I look like him and I waddle like him apparently as well. Unfortunately I didn't inherit his singing voice, which is, I've obviously got that from my mum. Sound a bit like a cat, but sorry mum, but it's true. But I still enjoy his songs, and I love listening to them when I go to bed at night, or if I've had maybe a wee glass of wine or something. That always makes me feel very close to my dad, and just very, very proud. And also I get very upset as well that I've never met him before, but many people don't get to hear his voice or hear things about them, about their father after they go. At least I've got his music, and I'm just very, very proud. I'd just like to say thanks to Swansea Council as well for putting this on today, and also a big thanks to Dan Matavina for all the work that he does, and Bob Jackson for organising the concert, and all the other members that are taking part in the concert today, and other musicians as well. So I just thanks a lot for everyone for coming as well. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so as the musicians take their place on the stage, if that's all right, we're almost at time, guys, which is surprising, seeing this is a Swansea event. So, to actually unveil our blue plaque, it will be Peter, together with Councillor David Phillips. And a big round of applause when it comes off, yeah? 3, 2, 1, go! Fantastic. Get your photographs in now, guys. Make sure you don't miss this event. Fantastic. So, just to let you know, the concert, the charity concert starts at 4:30 tonight at the Grand Hotel. For a final set of words from Dan Matavina to close today's ceremony. Dan, please.
Thank you, Swansea. It was a marvelous event. Would everyone agree this was a marvelous event? Superb. There's some guests who were invited. I just want to direct them to go into the hotel, and they'll be directed where to meet up. There's a little gathering with the council people. To everybody else, I hope to see many of you at the concert. It's going to be a fantastic show. Ex-Iveys, ex-Badfinger, locals, musicians from the Stories, Mal Pope. It's going to be fantastic. Again, thank you very much. We're wrapped.
Okay. Thank you. We're just going to sing one last song for you before we go to the Grand Theatre. I hope to see you all there this afternoon. It'll be great fun. We're good to go.
But I guess that's just the way the story goes. You always smile, but in your eyes, your sorrow shows. Yes, it shows. Well, I can't forget tomorrow when I think of all my sorrow. And I had you there, but then I let you go. And now it's only fair that I should let you know what you should know. I can't live if living is without you.
today. Thank you very, very much. We'll see you at the Grand Theatre at 4 o'clock. 4:30 we start, 4 o'clock we'll see you there. Take care.